Do you like ghost stories? Things that give you chills down your back or make you want to leave on a nightlight when you go to sleep at night? Well, I've got a few ghost stories I want to share with you. Recently, I was in Chicago and I did some research and I found out that Kenosha, Wisconsin, which is only about 30 minutes away, is a pretty haunted little city. So I'm going to share a couple stories about ghosts in Kenosha, Wisconsin. And I hope you enjoy them. And if you do, please leave a comment and let me know what you think. If you think these are more myth than mystery or fact than fiction. Hi everybody, it's Kim here, Fatina and Kara, and we're going to Kenosha, Wisconsin to go ghost hunting. Fatina, do you have anything to say about that?
I'm looking forward to it. Our first stop is going to be the Simmons library, and we might do some research while we're there, but it's also supposed to be a haunted place, so we'll see where the night takes us.
I'm along for the ride, hopefully to see some ghosts.
Look at how foggy it got all of a sudden. I'm just going to pan over so you can see. As soon as we said we were going to go in search of ghosts, it's like the fog rolled in.
We just got to the Simmons library, and we're going to go inside and see if there's any ghosts.
Because the second floor is supposed to be haunted, and people report hearing chairs scratching across the marble floor when there's no one there. And I can take off my sunglasses now because it's gotten really kind of eerily foggy and floating mists around us, and it's just the weather, but it's already got that creepy feel.
So this is the Simmons Library in Kenosha, Wisconsin. If you know of the Simmons Mattress Company, the founder of that company built this to dedicate it to his son that passed away with pneumonia. He wanted to dedicate something, and so he built this library. They took everything and hauled everything in on the train and deposited everything in their yard and then built it from the granite up. And this is the Simmons Library. And out in the front, I don't know if you can see it from here, we'll walk out there, but there's an angel that guards the library way out in the front, and you can just kind of see its wings. Maybe we'll go out and get a picture of it.
So now we're in the basement of the Simmons Library, right underneath the spiral staircase. And we're going to see if we can hear anything strange. We're going to say, if there's any ghosts around here, give us a sign. We're just going to listen. So we didn't find any ghosts ourselves inside the library, but there are ghost stories that we recorded and copied, and we'll read them to you later. Next, we went to the Kemper Center, which actually turned out to be the most haunted place we went to. We also went to the Green Ridge Cemetery, which I'll tell you about later, but the Kemper Center was a facility that had many sightings of ghosts, and while we were there we had problems with our cell phone and the recordings, and there were a lot of interferences with just things that looked like bugs or rain, which weren't there, and you could only see it on the screen. We couldn't see it ourselves, and I'll show you some of those pictures. You can see this little garden area here, which is where they have weddings. And they don't like people to know about the ghosts because they want to have these weddings here. And it's super beautiful because right over there is Lake Michigan. You can't see it right now because of the fog, the very thick fog. But there's the Kemper Center, and you can see that a lot of the windows are boarded up. And it's because, I believe, they say that you can see ghosts of the nuns. But the girls are leaving me. So I'm gonna get going because you can see how dark and creepy it is here. And this is the Kemper Center, also known as the Durkee Mansion. But it's only like 6:30, and it is only September 16th. So it's odd that it is so dark here. But look at those, all those windows are boarded up. And the lights have like an amber glow. It's very quiet here. So we're leaving. It's a creepy feeling, let me tell you. So I'm going to get out of here and we're going to go to our next site. So after going to the Simmons Library and to the Kemper Center, we went to the Green Ridge Cemetery, which is another haunted site. And the problem is that some of my video got corrupted, just wouldn't upload, and so I can't share that. But I wanted to tell you, one of the problems here is that at the Green Ridge Cemetery, Mr. Simmons' son was buried here, and he moved his body to the basement of the Simmons Library. And that may be part of the reason that it's haunted.
All right, so today the story that I'm going to be telling you about the Kenosha Library is one that we got from a book in the Kenosha Library itself. The librarians were nice enough to find a book for us that had a lot of the history and a lot of the mysterious history surrounding the Kenosha Library. So they took the book out for us. It wasn't very big, and a lot of it is, there's a lot of newspaper clippings in it, and a lot of them were stories. For example, these are all newspaper clippings that were in the book. And since we only had a limited amount of time there, we went ahead and copied, I think, about 80% of the book. It was one-sided pages, so it wasn't too much. There wasn't any art on the cover of the book. The only thing that was on the book was the spine that said History of Kenosha. So this story that I'm going to tell you is about the urban legend there and why it is believed to be a haunted library. Kim just got this for me. The library book was called Ghost of Kenosha County, and it was something that was compiled by the Kenosha Public Library. So it looks like they took the effort and did the effort to put this book together themselves because there was a lot to grab from. So that's good. Thank you. All right. So this is the urban legend of what happened in the library and what made it be haunted. So the ancient Simmons Library has a strange, terrifying urban legend that is known to only a few Kenoshans. The legend began a century ago when Kenosha millionaire Simmons commissioned the famous Chicago architect Daniel Burnham to design the neoclassical building that sits in the middle of Kenosha's Library Park. The building was assigned to last for 1,000 years. The fireproof building is made of marble, brick, iron beams, and 18-inch limestone blocks. Only a nuclear bomb or human neglect could destroy this building. When the building was opened to the public on Memorial Day, May 30th, 1900, few Kenoshans were aware that the Simmons Library contained a secret basement crypt for the burial of deceased Simmons Library employees. Yes, the Simmons Library has a secret tomb. Access to the burial vault was through one of the 4 doors located in the rotunda under the central dome of the library. One door leads to the basement, another leads to a small converted storage room that was formerly a stairwell, and the third door leads to a small room that has a sink. I think we went to that bathroom ourselves, so I know exactly which one I was talking about. However, a 4th door, which is located to the west of the main entrance, formerly led to a secret burial vault in the basement of the library. After switching on a dim light, one would descend a rusty iron spiral staircase that led to the musty, dark chamber below. The 4th door was always kept locked to prevent unauthorized people from discovering the Simmons Library urban legend. The first person to be placed in the Simmons burial vault was Gilbert M. Simmons, who was originally buried in the Simmons family burial plot in Green Ridge Cemetery when he died of pneumonia at the age of 38 on January 15, 1890. In 1900, Simmons requested that his son's body be exhumed from Green Ridge Cemetery and transferred to the burial chamber located under the library that had been named for him. When Gilbert's dark mahogany coffin was opened during its relocation to Library Park, the library staff was amazed at the remarkable state of preservation of his body. Although the facial features were somewhat discolored, there was no sign of decomposition. There was no perceptible odor of decay, even though Gilbert's clothes contained patches of green mold. 10 years after the dedication of the Simmons Library, Mr. Simmons was laid to rest next to his son in the Simmons Library crypt when he died on February 11, 1910, at the age of 82. Burial in the Simmons Library tomb was Mr. Simmons' final deathbed wish. Gilbert and Mr. Simmons were the only people not on the library staff to be buried in the Simmons Library basement. Over the years, Simmons Library employees aged, retired, and eventually died. Although burial in the library was voluntary, most retired Simmons Library employees chose to be interred in the basement burial vault beneath the library. Slowly, over the years, a collection of coffins began to accumulate in the underground tomb. Each coffin was cataloged and neatly placed in a uniform row along the outer edge of the vault. The crypt provided a safe, secure place for former Simmons Library employees to spend eternity. No one expected the disaster that occurred on the fateful Thursday morning on October 31st, 1935. Of all days, that's a good day to have something momentous happen. Early in the morning, about 6 o'clock, as the custodian was cleaning the first floor of the Simmons Library, he heard the strange sound of a woman moaning and pleading for help. Because he could not locate the source of the strange sounds, the custodian called the Kenosha Police Department. Soon after the police department arrived, it was discovered that the strange sounds were coming from the basement burial vault under the floor of the library. The custodian was then sent for the key that unlocked the door that led to the tomb. When the door to the burial vault flew open, the Simmons Library custodian and the Kenosha police officers saw a sight that they would never forget. The terrified face of a naked woman suddenly appeared in the doorway. The woman's hair had been torn from her head. Her fingernails had been ripped from her fingers. Her dilated eyes reflected a look of horror, fear, and madness. Clotted blood dripped from her nose and ears. She screamed one last cry of terror as she fell dead upon the stairs. Her limp, lifeless body then tumbled down the ancient spiral staircase to the bottom of the chamber. All was still. The Kenosha Police Department investigation revealed that the dead woman was a former Simmons Library desk clerk who had recently been pronounced dead after she had taken an overdose of sleeping pills several days prior to the incident at the library. There were rumors that she had been despondent over the breakup of a failed love affair. It was apparent that she had been the victim of premature burial. After the coffin had been sealed, she regained consciousness in the middle of the night when the library was empty and silent. After removing the heavy lid of her coffin, she discovered that her worst nightmare had occurred. She discovered herself entombed in a dark burial vault with a dozen human corpses. She lost all sense of sanity when she stepped on one of the furry brown rats that had been made its home in the tomb. She soon became covered with cobwebs and spiders as she blindly stumbled around the room. There was no one in the dark, empty building to hear her screams. The custodian and the police officers tenderly replaced the lifeless body of the library clerk back into her coffin. She would never leave it again. Tears filled the eyes of the custodian as he removed the shock of the nightmare incident that he had just witnessed. Even though he was married and was the father of 3 daughters, he and the library clerk had always had a special attraction for each other. He would miss her. After consultation with the Kenosha County District Attorney's Office, the mayor, and the Simmons Library Board, it was decided that the best solution to this bizarre incident was to secretly seal the entrance to the tomb forever. The local newspaper publisher agreed to protect the public image of the Simmons Library by not reporting the incident.
In summer 1837, Catherine and her sister Martha walked in the area where Greenridge Cemetery is now located, a grassy knoll covered with oak trees. Catherine, who had been sickly for several years, told her sister she wanted to be buried in that spot. Ironically, she died a year later and became the first person buried in that location. Charles donated the surrounding land to the city for its first cemetery. Catherine wrote about having heart palpitations and said she had hints that she might have been pregnant right before she died. "I know she died in agony," Martha said so. Her body was brought into the sitting room and everyone grieved for her there. Martha visited her grave and said she envisioned Catherine's spirit rising to protect her. Catherine and Charles are buried side by side in the family burial plot at Greenridge, and they face a different direction than the others. And perhaps she still dances in the night in the shadows of Simmons Library.
So I want to leave you with one last shot of Kenosha and the street, the way it looked when we walked around the city. And I just want you to know that this was our first ghost hunting experience and we had a great time. I hope you guys did too. We're going to do some more in the future, and if you'd like to see those, subscribe to my channel. Thanks for listening.